All right, here we go. Welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I think we're quoting a Thin Lizzy song, a little Gary Moore stuff. The boys are back in town. Um, my name's Alan Ulrich. I'm your co-host, along with Sean Williams tonight. And how are you doing tonight, Sean?
All good in my neighborhood. It's the off season. Uh, that means that there's very little to do, and uh, you throw out random rumors to get people's hearts in palpitations. So, moving right along, uh, we want to thank our sponsor, Fan First Productions, and invite everyone to, Alan, we set a goal that by the draft we wanted to have 100 subscribers on YouTube, and we're only 10 away from that right now. Of course,
Good deal.
the draft is come and gone. We have
Mm-hmm.
90 subscribers at the point, so we want to invite everybody to go and do that on iTunes and on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast. You'll get a weekly reminder, and whenever we're getting ready to go live, it'll send you the link automatically. Okay. Uh, one thing that we're very proud of here, the Under the Dome podcast, is that we are all about our fans. We're about Saints fans, and we're about Under the Dome podcast fans. And we try to do what we can to be there for our fans as well. And there's a member of the that nation who has requested that I request remember her in your prayers this week. She is having surgery on Thursday. Marie Baca. You guys, please keep her in your prayers for procedure she's having done Thursday. Uh, that the doctors will guide their hands, and everything will work out fine. And uh, God's got this. This isn't like
Absolutely.
but I uh, I don't make two directions about my beliefs either. All that being said, you guys, if you would please remember Marie Baca in your prayers, uh, and I will try to keep everybody updated on our Facebook page. Uh, and speaking of which, we invite everyone. Alan's handle is at 79 Saints. My handle is at Drew's Dad 3721. And collectively, I guess you could say, the show's Twitter account is Under the Dome PO1, at Under the Dome PO1. And uh, also, our our media guy, the stirs drink, so to speak. Our MVP, Mr. John Pinto, is at JB Pinto 3. Correct?
Yep.
Why can I never remember John's Twitter handle? Anyway,
It just shows up as John
Alan,
Pinto of mine. So,
uh, I, John is like a member of my family, man. I think the world of John, and I cannot imagine the past several months that we have experienced here with this and the growth and uh, everything absolutely blowing up for us. I can't imagine John not having been a part of that. He's every bit as big a part of this as Alan and I, and he appreciated. I'll put it that way. uh, Alan,
yes.
have you heard the latest rumor?
Which one? Which one are we going to give?
We're trading Mark for a new stadium.
You know, okay, let's start from the beginning here. First off, you have people all during the draft saying you trade Mark Ingram, saying you trade Mark Ingram, saying you trade Mark Ingram. Who are they going to get? Oh, they should get a pick for him, like a high pick. First off, they should get a pick for him and draft Leonard Fournette. They should draft Leonard Fournette. We can get Fournette, and he could do that. And then when that didn't happen, as soon as, well, first off, who had the post that who broke the news that Unger was going to be out all the way through the beginning of the season. Ian Crappenport. It just he is the same guy who in 2014, when Drew Brees got injured against Tampa, he's out for the year. It's serious surgery he's going to have. He's out for the year. And, of course, Drew only missed a game and came back. So, like I said, back when that story broke out, consider the source. He's only going to miss the OTAs. Sure enough, today comes out. He should be ready by preseason, at least the middle of preseason. So the panic kind of a little bit. But, yeah, and then some Philadelphia, I guess either bloggers or beat writers or somebody sat there and said, say, the Eagles don't have a running back worth a damn on the roster. The Saints have like 5 or 7 of them. They just lost their center. Let's come up with a scenario where we trade a guy they're going to cut anyway. We're going to trade him and a linebacker that we've been trying to ship off since free agency began for Mark Ingram. Because the Saints have Adrian Peterson, a 32-year-old Adrian Peterson. They've got Lasco, who finished the season injured reserve. They've got Cadet. They've got Murphy. Neither of those guys will be on the roster. And they've got, of course, Alvin Kamara, who they drafted in the 3rd round. Meanwhile, you've got professional sports writers who sit there and say, yeah, the Saints have all these running backs, and they've got Adrian Peterson. How are they going to distribute all these carries among all these running backs? I'm like, have you not watched the Saints for the past 5 to 10 years on how they do this? So, yeah, it was just so much stupidity. And then you've got people coming up with scenarios where, I just read one that, they're going to get rid of Ingram after this contract expires. They should try and trade him now while he has value and all these other things. I think I put a picture of a guy beating his head on the table because I don't know how many times you can say this. Running backs don't have much value in the NFL anymore. And if you're going to trade a running back.
Absolutely.
If you're going to trade a running back, because the CBA, because the way the CBA is written now, it encourages you to get rid of older players and bring in younger ones. If you were going to trade Mark Ingram, and I think he'll be 30 when his contract expires, but if you were going to trade Mark Ingram, the time to trade him was in 2012, 2013, 2014, that era, when he was still under his rookie contract and he still had 2 or 3 years worth left on his rookie contract. That's when he hit his maximum value because he was young enough and cheap enough to make it worthwhile for a team. You weren't going to get a 1st-round pick for him, but you were going to get something of him for him. Right now.
And the result of that was we signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, we signed him to a 4-year deal. The guy who has the most trade value right now for the Son of Saints roster is this guy right here.
Yeah.
Over here. Michael Thomas. He's on a rookie contract, had 1,000 yards receiving. Looks like a big play, number one receiver. There's your high trade value, but no one's going to talk about trading him because, he's probably the most explosive and best weapon we have right now. Cooks, what was his value when he got traded? His value was a 32, the 32nd pick overall, the last pick of the first round. Not even a higher pick. We lost value based on what we drafted him for and where we ended up getting a pick for him. Okay? I'm not going to count the third and the fourth round pick deal because that was basically we gave New England our fourth to move up to take their lowest third. So we're really just looking at purely from the standpoint of draft pick value. And to me, draft pick value, we saw Cooks, 1,000-yard receiver with speed galore, was only worth the 32nd overall pick. So these delusions that Ingram's going to get you your second-round pick back or the Ingram's going to get you any kind of value is just insane. So you've got that working against you. You're going to take a cap hit when you trade him because his cap is backloaded. And his age works against you. A team is not going to give up much for a 28, 29, 30-year-old running back. They're just not. They can go not when they can go draft one. So none of this deal makes sense. That's beside the point. The fact he's a 1,000-yard rusher, 5 yards to carry. He's your number one lead back. I'm just talking about the financials and the realistic value for it.
A lot of people seem to take for granted, and I were discussing this last night. People just take for granted now that role of a running back in today's game has changed so much. The days of having guys like your Barry Sanders, your Emmitt Smith, your Eric Dickerson, days are gone. That is not the role that a running back plays in the modern game. If you don't have a quarterback, only superstar that your offense is supposed to have is your franchise quarterback. And if you don't have a franchise quarterback, you're not competing for serious stakes.
You can compete. You're not going to win in the playoffs.
That was what I was kind of
because you look at the Texans, for example. The Texans have had Adrian Foster. I can't think of his. I want to say Adrian, but it's not Adrian. But they have Foster on the team.
Arian
Foster. Thank you, Arian Foster. And what's been the Texans? They got a great defense too. But what has been the Texans' biggest Achilles heel when they get to the playoffs? It's the lack of a quarterback. Even when Matt Schaub was playing well for them, he never made it to the playoffs. He always got hurt or something would happen, and you had to have good God, I can't even think of Yates, Savage. Yeah. You've always had these second and third string guys coming in there. Case Keenum coming in to play where they would lose because the quarterback simply could not make the plays necessary to get them to the next level. So, you watch – I scour YouTube looking for old football games all the time, but if you watch any football game from the 70s, especially pre-1978, the entire game is based on the ground game. Everything, it's very little passing. In Super Bowl 8, I think Bob Greasy put a ball in the air 8 times and completed 7 passes. The rest of it was Larry Zonka, Mercury Morris, and Jim Kick just pounding the crap out of that team. It was all based on the running game then. So, we've seen a complete evolution in football. So, yeah, you're right. You're not going to see a team based on one running back. They're going to run, everything's running back by committee, uh, and situational backs. They're not going to have one guy who's a 3-down back anymore. They just can't do it. They can't take the punishment. Thursday night games play a big role into that too, because you have fewer games. Now you've got games, less time to get healthy. Um, You've got fewer times where you can rotate people in and out. You need to have multiple backs who can shoulder a lot of the load. So, what you looking for?
Something to clean these nasty glasses. Here it is.
Oh, okay. So that brings us to Adrian Peterson.
I can't see.
You can't see. All right. Let's talk about Adrian Peterson and why people need to turn off YouTube and stop looking at 2012 Adrian Peterson, because that's not who you're getting.
Yes, and I went on our friendly neighborhood NOS group, the bane of some people's existence. But anyway, I went on there and I posted a live video. I invite everyone to go and check that out. You have to put things into context. You got I'm pretty sure, based on what I know and what I've seen of this game, you've got a first ballot, possibly even unanimous choice Hall of Fame running back on your roster now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the Adrian Peterson of 2 years ago. He's not the Adrian Peterson of 5 years ago. He's not the Adrian Peterson. It's Adrian Peterson coming off of I want to say, second blown out knee.
No, it wasn't a blown out knee. He had a meniscus tear, which my daughter's had a partial meniscus tear, so I know what it is.
Yeah.
But he's coming off of a year where he was suspended for all but I think one game, and then the following year he had a meniscus tear. Years old, and he's averaged over 300 carries a season. Okay, that's a lot of punishment. Primary back for the Minnesota Vikings. There was no other. I mean, you had that guy Taylor in the 2009 season, and you had I can't think of his damn name now. Starts with an A, but it'll come to me.
Asiata,
that's it. Yeah. Anyway, you had these guys, but it wasn't a 50-50 thing. It was like, oh yeah, this guy came in, for a blow for Peterson every so often, but basically Peterson had to carry that team, and he took a lot of hits over that time. He's an upright runner. Sure. He's a very physical runner, and those runners don't last very long. And he's 32 now. Now, granted, I've seen the pictures of him. He looks like an Olympic god. His cut. I'm not going to deny that. That man, his body. And yes, the treatment today is nothing like the treatment of even 20 years ago. Okay? So I get that. But you only have so many carries in you. And that's just a harsh reality, because I remember looking at Jerome Bettis, a muscle stimulator, just to get out of bed in the morning at the end of his career. They did a profile right before, I think, Super Bowl 40, where I think that was Bettis's last game, where, he was using a muscle stimulator to help him get out of bed, and walk. Okay? That's what happens to you. So I think somebody equated football, professional football, for a running back is being in multiple car accidents every Sunday, and then getting right back in the car the next day to be in another major car accident. And they said your body just doesn't respond like it did with you in your 20s. So those little nicks, aches, and pains that all the players go throughout the course of a season. Nobody is 100% healthy after week one. Nobody, unless you didn't play at all. But if you played at all, you're not 100% healthy, and you won't be 100% healthy until well after the season's over with. So you're constantly pushing yourself through taking painkillers or whatever it is to push yourself through the season. And I look at a player like Earl Campbell. Campbell came to the Saints in 83, well, 84. 84 was the year. People think of Earl Campbell coming to the Saints in 84 like he was 35, 36 years old. He came when he was 29 years old, okay? He came in the league in 1978 and was Saints in 84. So he had only played, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was in his 7th season in the league, okay? Moving like a guy who had been in the league for 20 years by the time he came to the Saints in 84. 83, he was already broken down with the Houston Oilers. He still got 1,000 yards. He got 1,300 yards. I'm looking at his stats right here. He got 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns on a horrible team. A horrible team in 83. Goes to the Saints in 84. We give up a #1 draft choice for him. And we trade in 85, we trade George Rogers, who was the first-round overall pick in 1980, to the Washington Redskins because we're going to trust in Earl, okay? Earl manages what? Stats. He manages 643 yards. His worst season as a pro. Okay? No, second worst. His worst season was 82, but that was a strike year. But his worst season as a pro, and I'll never forget, I saw Earl Campbell. My lasting memory of him as a Saints player, he breaks open in the dome against the Atlanta Falcons. Nothing in front of him but the end zone. About the 20-yard line, thereabouts, he pulls a hamstring, reaches down, grabs the back of his leg, trying to massage that, holding the ball out like a loaf of bread. A Falcons player comes from behind him, pops the ball forward, ball rolls into the end zone, touchback. Earl wasn't seen anymore the rest of that day. But he moved like an old man already. And that's what people have to understand when you're talking about Adrian Peterson today. When you look at him today, yes, he is a Hall of Famer, guaranteed. First ballot Hall of Famer. Arguably the greatest running back of his era. Okay? He just can't carry the ball 20 times anymore like he used to. If he carries the ball 10 times a game for all 16 games, that's 160 carries. That's about what he can handle now. And I think that's going to be his role with the Saints. And the people that think that he's going to surpass Mark Ingram with the carries, that he is going to suddenly morph into the Adrian Peterson we saw in 2012. He was the NFL Comeback Player of the Year, MVP type of player. I just don't see it. I may be totally wrong, but I just can't see him being able to take that kind of punishment for 16 games.
I can't either, and I'm kind of torn. On one hand, you've got Adrian Peterson theoretically sitting back saying, okay, this is still Ingram's team. I'm in the Hightower role. Okay. How many years has Ingram been in New Orleans?
Since 2011.
6?
So this will be his 8th year, 7th year. It's been 2011. So no, 6 years. 6 years. So it'll be his 7th season starting up.
How many
2011.
how many of those 6 seasons has he gone post to post without an
Two.
injury?
2.
2. Okay.
This year included, 2016 included.
Okay.
2
Now,
times.
the point I'm trying to make is, all that time before AP signed, everybody's talking about, oh my God, Ingram it's hurt. The next man up is going to be Traveris Cadet. Okay, well, Coach did something
Well,
about that.
well, Peyton knows this. I mean, I tell everybody all the time, the 2010 season forever changed the way he approached the running back position. When he lost Pierre Thomas and Mike Bell was gone, and Reggie Bush was in and out of the lineup, and he's pulling in guys off the street to start multiple games for him. Now, yes, Chris Ivory came up out of the undrafted pool, and he was able to do something with Chris Ivory. But even Ivory wasn't consistent. Ivory had a hamstring problem his rookie year, and then he got hurt, and he came back, kicked Seattle's butt in the dome. Then he came back. He got hurt again. Last couple of games where the Saints were trying to win an extra game, I think, because I think they had a possibility of getting the number 2 seed. I don't remember exactly, but they lost the last game of the season. They lost to Tampa, I think, the last game of the season. And they ended up – it cost them Pierre Thomas and Chris Ivory in that game. So you're now playing Julius Jones and Reggie Bush, and Reggie Bush gets hurt again in the Seattle playoff game. So that stuck with him. So he has decided from that point on, he is never going to get stuck with having to pull running backs off the street in a season. So he's going to hoard running backs. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to have at least four running backs on the roster. I think you 4 to be, Kamara and Lasco. I think that's your 4.
Yeah.
But depending on how Lasco does catching the ball.
You think about the other side of that coin, though. You're only one step away from, as you just alluded to, pulling those guys off the street.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people rant and rave and raise all amounts of hell about not only the fact that we drafted Kamara, but what we gave up to get into position to draft Kamara. And the one thing that stands out to me above all else as far as Kamara goes is the evaluation I saw after he was picked by New Orleans. And it basically, the gist of it was, New Orleans has needed that Darren Sproles type since Darren Sproles left New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
This is the closest that they've ever been.
Yeah.
And, everybody, every year, every time Darren Sproles makes a touchdown, it's people crawling out of the woodwork saying, we should have never let him go. Okay, well, I get that. But, we want Traveris Cadet behind Mark Ingram, and we did something about that by signing AP. That's not good enough. You wanted that Sproles type, so to speak. We get that, and that's not happening. I'm at a loss, man.
Well, there's a lot of Ingram hate out there right now, so yeah, they're going to grasp it, guys. But yeah, to me, if you don't understand why we brought in Kamara, then there's no helping you really, because you brought him in because it's not just Darren Sproles, because even if he's not the quick cutting back like Sproles was or Bush was, he can play the Pierre Thomas role, and everybody loves Pierre Thomas. But he is that Pierre Thomas kind of back as well. I mean, we had trouble running the screen pass. And how many years have the Saints executed the screen pass? In fact, some people were getting frustrated with it because it seemed like that was the only play they ran. But because Pierre Thomas ran it so well, it was always great to run. So yeah, you're going to have the screen pass come back in again. You're going to get the arrow routes. You're going to get those underneath routes that when you get Kamara matched up against a linebacker, and you're going to watch him take off for that. On 3rd and 15, Kamara's going to get 17 yards on a basically an 8-yard pattern. You're going to see those kind of plays happen again. So I mean, that's why he's there. The last thing I said about Lasco, Lasco's got to show he can catch the football. He's also got to show he can pass block. What are two things that Adrian Peterson cannot do? And the Viking fans will tell you this. He can't catch and he can't pass block. So there's another reason why. And guess who your best pass blocker is on your roster? Your best one, bar none. Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram.
Yes. He can also catch the ball. I used to get mad at Ingram because I thought he used to fight the ball when he would catch it. When you saw him early in his career, and he got a lot better at it. He stopped, trying to catch it up here. He would actually go out and get it and bring it to him, and he became a much better receiver. And that has also led to increased touches for Ingram. The more you can do, the better your chance in Peyton's offense, the better your chances to see the ball a lot. And that's the thing that people miss when it comes to Adrian Peterson.
I made the comment not too long ago to someone that over the past 5 seasons, the very most improved player on this roster has been Mark Ingram.
Oh, bar none. Bar none.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because in 2013, I think it was, 2013, 2014, around that time, I'm like, you know what? I really wouldn't give Ingram another contract. I try and trade him or just let him go in free agency, let some other team pay him a lot of money. Because I got tired of hearing about how he needed, 20 to 25 carries a game to get going. And I didn't think he was very much help. Maybe if he could pass block, but I didn't think he was very much help in the passing game as far as being a receiver. I felt that early in his career, when Ingram would come out there, it was like, remember that annoying 3rd down alarm they were playing? Well, you didn't go to many Saints games. You could hear it on TV in the dome. But I think in 2014, 2015, when it became 3rd down, the Superdome would play this incredibly annoying air raid horn. I was like, well, that's what I felt like was happening when Ingram came in. And it's like, running play. Don't bother covering the receivers. Put 8 men in the box because Ingram just came out there, running play. Whereas when Thomas came out there, it was, oh, shit. Is it going to be a running play? Are they going to run the damn screen? Is it a play action pass? What's it going to be? And that's going back to Peterson again. That's my concern with Adrian Peterson showing up a lot on the field. It's like you might as well just say put 8 men in the box because we know Peterson can't pass block and we know he can't catch. So it's going to be a running play, And that's something that Peyton hates. Peyton likes to be able to come out in, it looks like a power I formation with 2 tight ends, and suddenly the tight end kicks out outside the numbers. He's now the X receiver. The receiver that was X has moved in. He's now the slot guy. The fullback is now going into motion. He's on as an H back. Now you got a single running back and you got another wide receiver who split out even further outside the numbers. And you've got 8 men tucked in the box, and all of a sudden they went to this passing formation. And this could be a simple wheel route coming out the backfield, but it changes the defense. They don't know what to see. And the Saints like to run multiple plays out of the same formation. The 11 is their favorite formation: 1 tight end, 3 wides, and 1 back. That's their favorite formation. Okay. And they like to be able to run multiple plays out of that same formation. And the more you can do out of that formation, because you got more guys that can do all the little things, the more dangerous your offense is, because the defense does not know what to expect. All the clues of what's going on are completely throwing them off because they can't trust it. Because we saw them every time we saw them in film. Okay, they're in 11. Okay, they threw to this guy here. Oh, wait, they're in 11. They ran the ball. Oh, wait, they're in 11. They shifted out, and look, they ran this. And, and it changes over and over and over again. So now the defense has a bunch of stuff they've got to read. They can't just tee off and go after Breeze. And that's huge. That, or as Donald Trump would say, that's huge. So
yeah, I think that over the past 3 seasons where we've gone 3 consecutive years, 7-9 records, that's one thing that's been a recurring theme over those 3 seasons was the one-dimensional offense. Now, be that due to the fact that we get behind early and we've got to narrow the scope of our play calling. Whatever the reason, the one-dimensional offense, when you have everybody just takes for granted that you got Drew Brees, so everything's going to be all right, and that's really not being fair to him, and that's not being fair to the rest of the team. And that, when you say, "Oh, well, Brees, if it doesn't succeed, it's because of him," that's really unfortunate, because when everybody on the field, up to and including Waterboy, knows that when the ball is snapped, he's just fixing to go back into pass, and well, basically what I'm getting at, everybody in the stadium knows that Drew is fixing to throw the ball. How hard is that to defend? I mean, you take a 5-step drop, don't let anything behind you.
Yeah, they get what I call a soft shell defense. Yeah, and they keep all the receivers in front of them, and they send guys in after Drew because they're not fearing any of the weapons. And yeah, that's all part and parcel of it. That's and that comes. The word you were looking for so much was predictability. The Saints became predictable on offense, and I think that the predictability stems from the fact that you had guys that weren't good at everything. They were only good at 1 or 2 things. And as a result, you shrunk your playbook down to deal with the things that you were good at. And I think the problems along the offensive line, especially in 2014 and 2015, really impacted what they were trying to do, what they could do offensively. I was thinking about that Eagles game, in Philadelphia, where they beat the living hell out of Drew, and it's because the offensive line could not buy him any time at all. They just sent guys in after him, and that's where losing a Pierre Thomas, losing a Darren Sproles who could run and catch, losing a Jimmy Graham who could play.
With
Who's that?
washing clothes. Mom don't pay money. What the fuck does she have to?
Got to bow out for 1 second.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. I'll keep going. Thought that was God for a minute there. Anyway, but losing guys that offered you multiple things that your offense can do limited what the play calls they could run, and as a result, that hurt them. So what you've been seeing them try and do, at least from an offensive standpoint, is improve the offensive line. That's why you drafted Pete. That's why you drafted Ramczyk. That's why you signed Warford. That's why you made the trade for Unger. You did these things to improve the offensive line. to give Breeze more time. And you also brought in receivers like Cooks, who you traded. You traded and brought in Thomas. You traded and brought in Kamara. Now you bring in Adrian Peterson, who is a good. I'd like to see Peterson get the bulk of his carries in the second half of a game where he has fresh legs and you are running the ball because you're trying to, and everyone knows you're running the ball because you're trying to run the clock out. That's when you start seeing this offense do what it's supposed to do, and you start seeing a more diverse attack because you think about, let's pull the Falcons out, for example. What made the Falcons so deadly this past year? They jumped on you so early with such a multitude of weapons. Two running backs that could do everything. And you had Julio Jones, which drew a lot of attention. And they finally got a receiver alongside of Julio Jones and Sununu, who, he could draw a lot, at least a single coverage. He could beat that single coverage because Jones demanded so much. And then Taylor Gabriel came out, and he was dynamic out of the slot. And they jump on you. You're down 35-10 before you have even hit halftime yet. And now they can just sit on that lead and just pound the ball at you. Unless you're playing the Patriots, and you just, you stop running the ball and you just throw the ball still because you want to try and humiliate Tom Brady and Bill Belichick on a national stage. So you end up giving up 25 points and losing to a Super Bowl in the first overtime Super Bowl. But be that as it may, I just felt like I had to throw that back out there. The fact is, having multiple weapons, jumping on teams early, that was the formula for success for the Saints in 2009. That was a formula for the Saints in 2011. And even to a certain extent, the formula they tried to do in 2013, at least at home, you saw them jump on teams early, have an impact, especially in the dome, and then you let that defense go out there and force a couple 3-and-outs. Okay, you back? Nope. Are you back?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right.
I just
Sorry
tap dance like Jeffrey Hines on crack cocaine. I mean, yeah. I just went off for one. Oh, nothing. I just sat there and gave my explanation about why the Saints offense has to be more dynamic, and why you make these moves. Because let's face it, this goes on to the other stuff we're going to talk about, but the defense, you're not going to have a defense like the Dome Patrol. You're not going to have a defense that's going to shut teams down and just let Breeze just blow teams out. It's not going to happen. So you got to have a defense that can basically make enough key stops and force a couple of turnovers so that you're always on the plus side of the giveaway takeaway ratio. So you end up in the double digits like the Kansas City Chiefs, like I just had him a second ago. Not the Ravens and not the Patriots. There's another team I was just thinking of a second ago, and it'll come to me in a minute. Always a double-digit turn, giveaway, takeaway. We're always on the plus side. Always. They're always getting turnovers. And the old Ravens with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and they were the ones that did that a lot. But the Kansas City Chiefs are obviously the most recent one. But you get a team you get a defense that does that. They can give up a ton of yards. They can give up a ton of completions. But if they get the turnovers and turn teams away or get key stops to get the Saints offense more possessions, that's winning football. That's a 13-win team. That's what a 13-win Saints team is like.
And the point that I've made over the past couple of months, actually, you look back on this season, and we were every bit of a 7-19, but those 9 losses were by 6 points or less. So you're talking there, what you were just alluding to. You're talking about one more turnover or a team down for no points rather than giving up a field goal. You're talking about that being the difference in a ball game.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at how many games did we lose this past year? Not only because of special teams mistakes. No, I know we lost 9, but I'm saying how many teams did we lose this past year? How many games did we lose this past year because we didn't get a key turnover when we needed it? We had special teams breakdowns, but we didn't get that key stop at the end of the game that could have made the difference. I mean, even let's just say that let's look at the Denver game, for example. Before we had the block extra point that was returned for a quote-unquote touchdown, the guy stepped out of bounds. But even before that play happened, when Breeze threw that incredible pass and completed it to Cooks, what's the first thing that popped to your mind? My mind, it was, there's a minute 14 left. That's way too much time, and all they need is a field goal to win. That's way too much time, because we knew our defense could not get that key stop. In 2009, we're thinking, oh no, we got this game now. We just stole this game from them. Because we're going to get that stop. We're going to get that stop. That's, to me, that's the major difference.
There's so much. I don't know the word I'm not particularly looking for here, but there's going to be so big of a premium placed on the defense this year to shut that down, to be that unit that closes out the game rather than sits there and chews your fingernails worrying about whether or not they're going to be able to hang in there and get the job done.
Yep. Because you want to, and that's what happens when you're a defense that is an opportunistic defense that forces turnovers. Because you're thinking the whole time, at least I was, go back to the 2009 NFC Championship game. My wife watched the game, like this, the whole fourth quarter like this with her head in her hands. She couldn't look at it. But I'm standing looking at this going, okay, who's going to make the play? Who is going to make the play, the turnover that's going to end this game? Because the Vikings are going to turn the ball over. They've done it 7 times already. They're going to turn the ball over. And it's just a matter of who's going to make the play. So when Porter makes the play, aside from relief that somebody made it, it's just this, I knew you'd do it. I knew somebody was going to do it. I may have thought, okay, it's going to be sharper, but regardless, I knew someone was going to make the play in the game that was going to end it. And what happened in the Super Bowl? The same thing. Peyton's driving down the field, and you're going, okay, the worst he can do is tie it, and we're going to get the ball again. But someone's going to make the play to stop this game. And when Tracy Porter makes the play again, you're like, there you go. That's how that season went. That whole season, it was always who makes the play, the turnover, or whatever that seals the game.
Yeah,
it's just to me that's good. That's winning football. That's Saints winning football, at least.
And to that end, that's the reason that you see the draft going by way of Marcus Lattimore, William. Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Marshawn Lattimore.
Marshawn Lattimore, Marcus Williams.
Yeah. That's why you see those guys being brought in, because it's my opinion anyway that ever since Sharper left New Orleans, you can say what you want to about the guy now, and I don't defend or condone the path that he chose to, the trajectory that he put himself or his life on. I don't condone that, support it, or defend it. But at the same time,
you don't win a Super Bowl without him. You cannot. There's no way anyone can sit there and say you don't win a Super Bowl without Darren Sharper.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm the same way. I will never defend what he has done off the field post the Super Bowl. But that year, he was a defensive MVP, especially in the first half of the season. He set the tone. How many
Absolutely.
defensive touchdowns did he score at the beginning of the season? From
Uh, six, I
the
think.
I know he scored. Yeah, I think he scored 6. I think it was 9 defensive touchdowns total that year. But I mean, you had in the first game against Detroit, he gets a pick 6. He got one against Philadelphia. He got the big one, the big turnaround one in Miami. I mean, so it just kept happening, and it got to the point where if it didn't happen, you're like, okay, what's wrong with Sharper? How come he's not picking off a pass? He even got an interception in the New England massacre. I mean, it's just so
we had intended. I think the time has gotten away from us a little bit tonight, but next week we are going to break down into, I guess, what you call quadrants. The coming 2017 season, and look at our opponents over the 17 weeks of the season and what we can expect from that. Alan, real quickly, you are a really, I don't think that the word I'm looking for is shrewd, but you're a very good evaluator of talent. Going back and looking at the point of emphasis for so many people during this offseason, the pass rush, would you say that the pass rush of the Saints has gotten better, stayed the same, or maybe not really been as much of a focal point as what we thought it would be through free agency, draft, and the UDFA market?
Okay, first off, our pass rush has gotten better because we blitz more. We have to blitz. Okay, I thought Cam Jordan had a Pro Bowl type season last year. He kind of got a snub because he was on a statistically bad defense. I thought Nick Fairley played very well on third downs, got a lot of push. I thought Rankins came in, and it's a shame he missed the first 8 games because I thought by the end of November, early December, he was playing some pretty good football. I think in that standpoint, you've got 3 good defensive linemen who can do something. The problem is your other pass rushers are guys that have one foot in a mash unit and the other foot on the field in Kihaka, in Ellaby, those kind of guys. You don't feel like you can rely on those guys. And unfortunately, in the draft, because of the way the draft fell, and I think the second round was what changed it, because I think if they really liked a pitcher, they would have taken him in the second round, but they didn't have one they really liked. I think the guy they really, really liked, the Falcons took, at the end of the first round. And I think after that, they kind of rated everybody a lot lower than the fans did.
Yeah.
So as a result, I can't say the pass rush is going to be better. I think Hendrickson has potential to be a good rotational player.
Yeah.
More of a contributor than Kihaka will in this defense. I don't know what Okafor is going to be able to do for us. I think he'll be better than what's his name? The guy who came from the guy who came from the Browns, who was the defensive end
Robertson.
this past year. No, the guy on defensive end. We picked him up right
Kruger.
there. Kruger. I think he'd be better than Kruger. But does that translate to 8 sacks? I don't know. If we can get 8 sacks out of him, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I've gone. I alluded earlier to the video that I did earlier tonight for the New Orleans Saints group. In that video, I made the comment, and I want to see if you agree, disagree, or really could care less one way or the other on this. I made the point at the end of the video that I think a year from now, 2 years from now, so on and so forth, when the acquisition of Adrian Peterson as being the premier free agency move of this offseason, we're going to look back on the acquisition of Adrian Peterson as being the most important free agency move that we made. Do you agree with that?
I can't say. And the reason why I can't say is because, let's say Peterson plays against his old team, shows up like it's 2012, and just runs over that defense and just looks like a monster out there. But then practice the following week, he pulls a hamstring, he's out 4 weeks. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Let's see what happens at the end of the season when we total it all up and see what goes on with that. Because I to me, I can't say yet, because then this is the other thing.
Yeah.
We were going to kind of project a 53-man roster to an extent. What guys we think would make the team, what guys aren't. And I know a lot of LSU fans already have Darrell anywhere from beating out Coleman for a job to being the number 2 receiver ahead of Snead. But we can't say anything about anybody until we see them on the field. Half the guys we might be praising today might get cut before training camp even starts. I call it the Onome Ojo Award. I mean, it just.
At this point, the only thing, or the closest thing to rival the acquisition of Peterson, in my mind anyway, was the re-signing of Fairley. Going into free agency, I said that had to be the biggest. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Once again,
it was the best offseason. It was the best offseason move. Re-signing Fairley and then bringing in a star like Peterson, but only if Peterson produces, and only. I mean, look, last year when we brought in Fairley, people were saying, well, he might be able to help a little bit. And sure enough, it turned out as the season ended, he was probably the most consistent defensive lineman. You didn't know that was going to happen. So let's see. We'll revisit this topic. I hate to say it, but we'll revisit this topic in February and see who the best free agent acquisition is, because that's really the only way you're going to know. Guys that people expect to do well rarely do well, and guys that no one even heard of. And I always go back to the Joe Horn example. Joe Horn, I remember the day I heard him get announced as the Saints' first free agent signing, and they're like, he might be able to contribute on kick returns. He was number 4 receiver with Kansas City. He barely played. We don't know what we're going to get out of him. It was kind of we got that guy, but that's not the big player. That's just a player. They were more excited about Jeff Blake. And what happened? Joe Horn became, the face of the franchise, for lack of a better, description.
So I agree.
Him and made him the ex receiver.
I
What
I
happens once they
agree.
play on the field?
It's everything up to this point is uh, for all practical intents and purposes, it has to be prefaced by saying, at least on paper, uh,
Hmm.
and that's just where we are right now. Coming up in the next month, maybe 2 months, we have three, I believe, OTAs scheduled for the Saints. And I want to say the last weekend of July is when training camp opens. I'll have to
Yeah,
go back and
it's the
look at
last
all
week of
these
July
dates.
because they report like a Thursday, and I think the rookies come in a couple days early. They haven't officially announced the schedule yet, but that's generally how the Saints do it. The rookies come in a couple days early, and then the the veterans come in, and I think the first hitting practice is like almost a week into camp.
Yeah,
A week from that Thursday.
yeah,
So yeah, we're looking at the last week of
yeah.
July, first week of August, and then I think the Hall of Fame game is the second weekend of August.
If you guys, uh, if you guys take absolutely nothing from this episode of our show, but one concept, don't when it comes to rumors, speculation, all that stuff, don't go with all these knee jerk reactions. And as an example, I'll use the past 24 or 36 hours or so. Uh, we're gonna have uh, Unger out for half the season, and uh, as far as that goes, the prevailing thought process was he's going to miss the beginning of the season, which if he's added to the pup list, which is physically unable to perform, that is automatically 6 weeks right off the top. Um, the only alternative to that would be the IR with designation to return. And as I understand it, Alan, you may correct. You may hold my feet to the fire on this. The IR with designation to return, each team is only allowed two of those per season, correct?
Yes, I'm almost positive that's what it is. It's two this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. I know last year one of ours was Delvin Breaux, and
Hmm. The other one was Rankins.
I think
Actually, no, they did back.
Rankin
No, Delvin Breaux
was
was
pup.
never. Delvin Breaux wasn't on an IR or pup list or anything. He was just deactivated. It was only Rankins that was on the. He started on the. He was on the IR list. I don't think we had a guy on the pup list. We had. Um, we had one. We had Andrew Young, who was on the reserve football non-injury list, and then he was activated late in the season.
Yeah.
We had Rankins, who was on IR because everybody thought he was going to be in a pup list, and they had him coming back for week 7, and he actually came back in week 9. We had Rowe, who was just deactivated. He was not put on any kind of injury reserve or anything like that. So, it's you know, it's funny because they make these moves based on roster space too. Um, if they take a lot of injuries at a certain position, like cornerback last year, and they need the roster space, they move people to IR or they move people onto different lists rather than just deactivate them because they need the space. I think we brought in a quarterback from Green Bay, and everybody thought it was going to be the heir apparent for Drew Brees. We put him on the active roster
Yeah.
because we had to, and he only lasted, a week here? So, they make a lot of moves, short-term decisions based on anticipating roster space.
And I think so. One point that I gotta drive home. Uh, Everything that I saw yesterday, it seemed insignificant at the time, but everybody was saying it's far too early to tell yet. But blah 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 blah. Well, far too early to tell yet was the key thing that people just conveniently skipped right on over. Uh, Long story short, the word coming out of NOLA today was that all appearances seem to be that Unger is going to be able to return during the preseason, which we hope to be the case. But that being said, we basically, if nothing else, we have the parameters to operate, because we have best case scenario, which is returning during preseason, and worst case scenario, which is half the season, be it PUP list, IR with designation, all of that. But anyway, moving right along. Don't
No,
don't
okay.
don't check your notifications that regard the Saints stuff if you're like on a high ledge. If nothing else,
What did,
consult Alan and I. We make ourselves available for just such emergencies as that.
what Douglas Adams say? Don't panic. Don't panic. Don't make panic moves because, oh my God, somebody's hurt again. I know it seems like the Saints. I think Nick Underhill took a from 2014, 2015, and 2016. Like the Saints are cursed with an obscene number of injuries. And 2016 was high because you had so many cornerbacks go down. But,
Last year,
2014,
they
2015 was not uncommon as far as injuries. This goes back to the same old stuff we've been saying forever. When we miss on free agents and we miss on draft picks and you draft so few players, injuries hurt your team a lot compared to, because we had players missing 2009. We lost both starting cornerbacks in 2009 for several games. That's why Mike McKenzie was playing against New England. That's why Chris McAllister was playing against Washington.
Usama Young.
Lose players, okay? Shockey was in and out of the lineup. Bush was in and out of the lineup with injuries. But the thing was, we had enough people that carried us over. We didn't lose key players. You didn't lose Knicks for half the season. You didn't lose Evans. You didn't lose Pierre Thomas. You didn't lose Drew Brees. You didn't lose a lot of, you didn't lose Marcus Colston. Marcus Colston missed a half of 2008. Sorry, 2008. Yeah. So, it's just all of those kind of things. So when you don't have the depth, injuries hurt even more. So when we finally started to build up depth, the one position we had a lot of depth, then going into the season, cornerback, we lost 8 guys. So, yeah, it just, that's the kind of things that happen. Huh? But, yeah, by week two, because you were losing guys in June. You lost Jamarcus Sanford. You lost the Alabama kid that came from the Jets. I can't think of people's names right now. I don't know why I can't, but
I'm drawing a blank as well.
Yeah, but you lost your nickel corner. You lost Damian Swan in the preseason. Keenan Lewis was never healthy. Then Devin Breaux breaks his leg in week 1, and then week 2, your other starting cornerback, PJ Williams, gets a severe concussion. He's out for the year in week 2. So now suddenly in week 3, you're starting 2 guys you signed off the street, B.W. Webb and Moore. You're playing undrafted rookies that were lucky if they were even going to make the team in preseason. and these guys now are your nickel and dime cornerbacks. So yeah, it's just a mess.
I agree. But there again, in terms of advising our loyal followers and what have you, remember, just like every other year, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. Don't get all fluted out and blow yourself out right now because we haven't even got to training camp yet. Breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Meditate.
Yep.
Any do you have any extra points tonight, Alan?
We've kind of touched on a lot of it. I mean, my big thing, and we've talked about the whole thing, is, again, give it up with Mark Ingram. He's about a season and a half away from becoming the Saints' all-time leading rusher. He's going to do it. Saints fans have to really, Ingram is going to be one of these guys that 20 years from now, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, he was a good back. I wish we had Ingram today, because they talk about, Sean Payton not running the ball. Sean Payton's had 2,000-yard rushers in the 10 years he's been head coach. Do you realize that until Ricky Williams got 1,000 yards rushing as in 2000 with Jim Haslam's first year, that the Saints went over a decade and 3 coaches yards in 1989. No running back for Jim Moore's team ever got 1,000 yards again. Certainly no running back from Mike Dicka's team got even close to 1,000 yards. And then it took Ricky Williams under Jim Haslam to get 1,000 yards. So, I mean, and those were 2 teams with Dicka and Moore. Certainly, they were built on running the football, and they couldn't get 1,000-yard rusher. So, Ingram, it's not flashy, it's not pretty. He'll drive you crazy with a lot of 1 and 2 yard gains and not seeming to get the first down, but then somehow he manages to get 5 yards to carry after the season's all said and done. So yeah, just lay off of Ingram. That's my extra point.
And for me as well. Obviously, we want to. We never did the time last week so much to thank you guys for all the support that you threw our way during the big Draftapalooza extravaganza that we threw. Thank you guys so much for making that such an incredible success. But also, for those of you who aren't aware, we have just recently surpassed 1,000 followers on our Facebook page, and now we're working on 2. So thank you guys so much for making what we do a success. We gauge what we do by what you guys want, and that's the only measuring stick for us is what do you guys want? That's what we'll give you.
Yep.
As far as the extra point, I guess I really have one this week. I'll give everybody a rest, and I'll rant on next week, I suppose. I guess that's it, brother.
Oh, there we go. Well, we only went 16 minutes over this time, so that's not too bad. So anyway, yeah,
we're losing our touch.
I'm telling you, we don't have guests on. I guess we have to get a guest so we can talk about that more. We didn't break into the season, which of course, let's save all that stuff for later on as we get into the really dead part of the season, which is what this is now. If it wasn't for the Ingram talk and if it wasn't for Unger's injury, really, we wouldn't have much to talk about right now. But we can talk about the preseason. They announced the preseason schedule today. You know, then we'll go into, and it's good to break it into quarters. We'll go into the first half of the season, the first quarter, you know, how important it is for the Saints to get off to a great start. And the schedule makers did not make it easy for us to do that. You know, then we'll go into, you know, going to London and the so-called softer part of the schedule, and then how important to finish strong is, you know, how we do in that first. We can't do what we've been doing, fighting to get to 500 by the halfway point of the season and completely expending all of our energy so that we have this late season collapse again. You know, we never get over 500. We can't do that. And I think the first 4 games determine that. So we'll get into that next time, of course.
Yeah, we're going to discuss the scheduling next week in great detail. And as we'll bring out then, it's so very, very important for the New Orleans Saints. And I don't mean this just kind of as something neat to say. It's proven historically, and there again we'll bear that out next. It's proven historically that when the Saints begin their season with a win, if I'm not mistaken, started with a win, the end result has been postseason. But we'll verify and take care of all that next week. Thank you guys so much. Once again, we invite you guys to follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome. My colleague Alan Ulrich is at 79 Saints. I am at Drew's Dad 3721. And on Facebook, we are Under the Dome Podcast. Thank you guys so much for following us, for supporting us, and being a part of what we do and allowing us to be a part of what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching and participating. We really, you know, please, if there's anything you want us to talk about, we're getting to the dead part of the season. We're going to need stuff to talk about, and hopefully no injuries to talk about. We want to have good stuff to talk about, you know, so please, you know, shoot us an email, shoot us a tweet or whatever, and we'll talk about whatever it is you want us to talk about. So, but thank you guys, and we'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.